Hello, hello, and welcome to Oracle Hour. My name is Sabrina Rising. It's my honor here to be here with you to channel spirit on your behalf. I am a spiritual teacher and a psychic medium, and I am just noticing that my microphone's not plugged in. So give me a second while I do that. And here we go. You should be able to hear me better now. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me live. We had a bit of a glitch where we were scheduled for March 1st, but here we are tonight. So, and of course, March 1st is next Sunday, which will also be here live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific. So thank you for those of you that are community members and for joining us here. I see we have questions in the chat. We're live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. If you are anywhere other than YouTube, you can see me, but I can't see you. So come and join us on YouTube at Sabrina Rising and put your question in the chat. I answer questions on a first come, first serve basis. I do live readings, spiritual channeling, messages from your spirit team, from your higher self, whatever it is that your heart needs to hear in this moment so that you can have clarity, feel empowered, and walk away with some real guidance that you can use, you can apply in your life immediately. Okay, so I'm a pretty grounded psychic. I try to stay away from too many predictions and more empower you with the information you need to make the most of your life. Of course, if you have specific questions about your practice or your spiritual development journey, those are always welcome. I'm going to jump into a topic tonight that I feel very passionate about. Tonight, we're discussing the very important distinction between spiritual hierarchy versus spiritual authority. And I think that there's never been a time more important to discuss this, especially with everything that's unraveling in the news. Of course, this is not new, and it's being more exposed because there is a reason for this exposure. But there is a long history of spiritual authorities or spiritual figures that have abused their power. Okay, so we'll talk more about that here in a moment as we get into it, as more and more people join us live. Again, put your question in the chat, and if you're a paying member, I will always answer your question first. And we'll spend a little more time in the reading. If you are just kind of browsing and you want to listen, and please pay attention to the questions that are being channeled, because the information is for you too. Even if I'm not interacting with you directly, I have found, and I see this over and over again, there's always a theme, and then the questions really do build upon each other, and the messages are for all of us that are here in community. Okay, so please stay for the whole broadcast. If you are asking for a reading, if you want a psychic reading, if you want a connection to the spirit realm or your higher self, please stay on and validate. Okay, so don't just put your question in and then leave and then try to come back later and see where we are, or perhaps watch it at the end of at the end. Please try to stay on and validate with us, because that always lets the conversation, allows it to flow more smoothly, and it's more beneficial to everybody that's participating. Okay, keeping in mind that this is a collective experience. The tendency is to come here wanting something for ourselves, but what I really want to encourage is for every single participant to be here wanting to participate in something bigger than just yourself and just your issues and whatever it is that you might be struggling with. I want to honor that, those struggles. And I also want to use this as a teaching opportunity for everyone to hear themselves in the struggle. Okay, so this is so important that this is for everybody, not just for the person that I'm interacting with. Okay, so hello, everybody. Hi, Patty. Hi, Jenna. Hi, Rhonda. I see you. Good to see you here tonight. Okay, good. Are we live on Instagram, Lyriel? Yes. Okay, beautiful. Lyriel is in charge of the chat. If you're putting comments on Instagram, she will manage your comments, but please join us on YouTube so I can see you and I can answer your question live. Okay, so tonight we're talking about spiritual authority versus spiritual hierarchy, and why this distinction is so important. And there has never been a time, I believe, more relevant, more poignant, more powerful. I mean, it's very timely to talk about this, even though we have a long history of spiritual teachers that have abused their power. Of course, I'm referring to the news about Deepak Chopra, Epstein. I mean, if you're not watching the news, if you're not on social media, then you maybe don't know about this. I don't know how you could have missed it, because it's absolutely everywhere and we are inundated with this information. And what I really want to caution against is the temptation to get caught up in fear, to get caught up in absorbing, all of this toxicity and allowing yourself to be decentered or derailed by what's happening in the world. This is just humanity's next version of what's happening in the collective, that can create divisiveness, separation, and actually instigate more hatred and more anger, which creates divisiveness and separation ultimately. Okay, so again, now is the time to really kind of sit back and observe, really practice the tools that we learn here in our Oracle community. Practice your peace process, practice regulating your nervous system, and just making sure you're getting your personal needs met, and you're taking breaks from the news, breaks from taking in what's happening in the collective, so that you can find your center and realize that I cannot participate in this, and that's my power and that's my strength. Okay, so it's really, really important. Of course, it's very disheartening when we find out about spiritual teachers that have been abusing their power, or they're not who we thought they were. And again, this isn't new. We have a long history as human beings of humans in spiritual authority positions that actually abuse their power and created more of a hierarchy system. And this can happen on a very subtle level. Most people that come for healing are usually vulnerable, susceptible. They're looking for clarity. You're confused. You're full of doubt. And so we put the healer or the spiritual authority on a pedestal, and this can be very dangerous. Okay, there's an expression in 12-step community, which I really appreciate. It says, never worship the fingers that point to God. And this is such an important warning, because we never want to place all our power on another human, right? We don't want to place we don't abandon ourselves to the discernment of another person, and ultimately surrender our self-governance. This is very, very dangerous practice. And spiritual hierarchy is something that's co-created. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so there's a subtle tension that lives in many spiritual spaces. It's very subtle. It's rarely named, but almost everyone has felt it. Okay, and that's the tension between guidance and giving your power away, which is what I'm talking about. Okay, so when you honor someone else's wisdom, and you override your own. And this is something that we need to really pay attention to, because many of us come to spiritual spaces, like I said, vulnerable. We're healing, we're searching, we're looking for awakening. And in those moments, certainty can feel comforting, right? Even when I give readings, or I give directives, or I give messages from the spirit realm, people feel reassured, and they feel a sense of empowerment, or they feel a sense of, okay, Sabrina said this, you know what I mean? And again, this can be very, very dangerous, because I'm not the authority on your life. Only you can be the authority in your life, right? And no spiritual teacher or psychic or medium or channel or healer or guide can know you and your life better than you can. Okay, our job is to channel, to guide, to give, make suggestions based on the current energy, based on your patterning, your conditioning, based on the circumstances of your life, and how to align you more with love, which is what we talk about here every week. But we can't not override your own self-governance. And when the temptation is to give this away, and to come to the Oracle for the answers. The Oracle knows, of course, but the Oracle can't tell you what to do, and it can't invite you to do something that doesn't feel like it's in alignment with your highest and best good. And that's the subtle distinction between the hierarchy and the authority. Okay, so real guidance never requires your submission under any circumstances. Real spiritual authority doesn't silence your intuition, it strengthens it. If your inner voice gets quieter around someone, that matters. If you feel smaller or more confused or subtly dependent, that matters. Okay, so I want you to really get honest with yourself about looking for guidance, or looking to spiritual teachers or spiritual authorities for what should I do, or how do I resolve this, and how much personal responsibility are you abdicating in those attempts for guidance, right? Or are you listening and actually checking in with yourself to see how it lands in your body, to make sure that it feels like it resonates for you, like something clicks, like, okay, I really want that. Okay, this is very important. And it also takes a certain amount of awareness. When we're in pain, we just want relief, right? So sometimes we don't think, and we just, we can go to someone and get that relief, and it's like a dopamine hit, and all of a sudden we feel better. We feel a sense of relief. We feel a sense of support and even comfort in those moments. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have the information that we need to make the most of our circumstances and to actually heal. Okay, so hierarchy often forms through projection, right? This is and I've seen this over and over again in our space, in the healing space. Okay, when we unconsciously place someone closer to spirit than ourselves. Okay, spirit is not hierarchical. This is so important for everyone to know. Consciousness is not tiered, right? There's no VIP section or VIP access to the divine. Everybody has access to the divine, which we also talk about here week after week. Okay, there's experience, there's embodiment, there's wisdom earned through integration. Okay, but there is no human who replaces your direct relationship with source. So tonight we're going to explore, how a hierarchy is formed, and again, how authority wounds show up. Again, the reason that the hierarchy is a co-creation is because we often come to healing work, um, with parental wounds that we haven't actually dealt with, right? So we want to project authority onto the person who seems like the expert. They seem like the authority. And so we want to project, this person knows something that I don't know, or has access to something that I don't have access to. Okay. And so there's a desire for certainty during vulnerability, and the nervous system is seeking safety through external control. And so a good guide, a guide with integrity, a guide who is actually working in alignment with real spiritual principles that are aligned with unconditional love and that see all beings as whole, perfect, and complete, regardless of their spiritual practice, regardless of their inclination for spirit, regardless of their ability to really rely on their own intuition. Even if you're new in this work, you have just as much access to spirit as I do, or any other guide does. It's just a matter of cultivating this capacity, this ability, natural ability that you have, and learning to rely on it and use it. Okay, so this is so important, okay, because devotion, when we devote ourselves to spirit, when we devote ourselves to our practice, expands your heart, it deepens your discernment, and it feels empowering, and it keeps your spine intact. You're kind of like a whole person rooted in your own authority, and you know exactly what to do. You're learning to lean into your own intuition. When I'm doing readings or guiding clients, or in my one-to-one containers and my group programs, and even during the show, it's like, listen to how that feels in your body. How does it land for you? Always trust how it feels in your body first and foremost. And oftentimes when we come to healing circles or healing communities, or even one-to-one sessions with people who we perceive as the experts, we want what they say to fit into our lives, because we're desperate for answers. We might be desperate for a sense of belonging and connection. We might be projecting our unresolved issues with our parents. And so we're looking for approval. We're looking for love, connection, belonging. We have all these unmet needs that were not met in childhood, and now we're projecting them onto the guru or the community, right? And so it's so important that if you are here in community, or if you're aligning with any community or any teaching or teacher, that the environment you're in actually feels like it supports you. It feels like it allows you to start questioning yourself, using your own critical thinking, and ultimately developing your own relationship with spirit, so you can rely on your own inner compass in terms of what serves your highest and best good. Okay, so self-abandonment, to be clear, contracts your body. Okay, it silences your question. It feels like walking on eggshells. It creates comparison. It creates shame. Right. So again, it's not like when we idealize someone, we place them above humanity. Right. And that erases nuance, and it makes questioning feel like betrayal. This is not spiritual governance. It's not real spiritual guidance. Okay. And again, these things can be very, very subtle, because in healthy mentorship, we're transparent about limitations. We encourage critical thinking. We invite questions. We don't collapse boundaries, right? We don't claim exclusive access to spirit. So these are red flags. Okay, if you're ever going to someone for guidance, misplaced power sounds like only I can see this, or you're not ready to understand, or your resistance is your ego, or all of this bypassing nonsense that we hear in spiritual community. Always trust where you are. Your feelings are always valid, no matter what. Okay. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it does, if you have a judgment about your feelings, which most people do, which is why they stay stuck in their emotions and they don't give themselves permission to talk about their emotions.
when you're with someone who's holding space for you, all of you needs to have the experience of being validated, heard, and empathized with. In fact, that is the crux of healing, is to have that experience so that you can lean into your own the full range of your emotions, your own emotional experience, and learn to alchemize it yourself, moving out of fear, out of shame, out of self-judgment, and into self-compassion, self-empathy, and self-empowerment. Ultimately, we are a good spiritual guide is here as a mirror to to act as the template for what it's like to have an unconditionally, radically self-accepting relationship with yourself. Not with us necessarily, but with yourself ultimately, because that's the most important relationship you're ever going to build. All right. So here are some energetic markers of true guidance. Okay. So supportive guidance regulates your nervous system. It leaves you feeling clear. It leaves you feeling steady, not urgent. It respects your timing. It doesn't rush devotion or payment for that matter. It doesn't shame or doubt you. Okay. So unhealthy guidance creates a false sense of urgency. This is emotional manipulation. I know there's a lot of teachers and healers and coaches that are like, use certain fear-based marketing tactics to get you to sign up for things or to do things or to align with things that you may not necessarily be ready for. Always pay attention to that. If you feel a sense of urgency, like, oh, I have to do this or I'm going to miss out, that is not your higher self. That's not love. Love doesn't do that. It doesn't promote fear. There's never anything lacking or anything missing. There's no rush. Like I say all the time, there's no nature is never in a rush. It's always unfolding in the perfect time, as it's supposed to. And so should you. So should your healing journey should mirror the same rhythm in nature. Right? Slow and steady in the perfect time, in the perfect way, whenever it serves your highest and best good, at a pace that you can assimilate your healing. Okay. This is very important to evolve, not, in a, with a certain outcome or attachment to an outcome. This is the ego that wants that. Okay. Evolution and healing is all about embodying unconditional love. And this takes time, and everybody has their own unique pace for this. Okay. So again, spirit never manipulates you. Your human ego does that. All right. But spirit doesn't actually do that ever. So beware, especially if you're getting readings and so on. Okay. This is so important in our space, where people come vulnerable and they want questions and they want guidance. And it's important to always remember that you are the authority. You have the final say in terms of what happens in your life. Okay. So this is my message for tonight. Hopefully this was helpful. I don't want to go on and on and on about this. I want to get into the readings and questions. I think it's such an important topic for our time. If you have any questions about this topic, if you want to jump in on this topic, if you've had an experience of, a teacher where you felt manipulated or you felt like you're being asked to do things that you weren't comfortable with and so on, please don't hesitate to share that experience with us so that we can help you come out of shame and reclaim your power, reclaim your sovereignty. We're at a phase now, we're in an era where self-governance and sovereignty is so important because we're inundated with contradictions of what's happening, what's true, what's not true. We don't know who to believe. And so in a case like this, which is it's always been the case. It's just now it feels like it's more amplified because of the media and because of the level of exposure. But ultimately, rely on your relationship with God, with spirit, with higher consciousness, with source, whatever your frame of reference is, because that's infallible. So source will always be there for you. Source will never abandon you. Source will always guide you to deepen your relationship with love, with trust, with nature, with your own rhythms, and what serves your highest and best good in each moment. It will allow you to heal your fear, which is what we're doing here as humans. That's why we're on the planet, is we're here to experience the contrast of what it's like to be disconnected from source consciousness, which is ultimately fear, and to awaken from this fear through our circumstances that are karmic, that are, soul driven, that are chosen on a soul level, so that we can find that point of pressure, that point of pain, where we now are driven to look within. And for some of us, that means we have to go out and do all kinds of things with our humanity. We distort ourselves, we manipulate ourselves into all different versions of our humanity in order to come back to the real question, which is, who am I and why am I here? And only you can answer those two questions. Okay, no one can answer those two questions for you, and no one can force you to answer those questions in a way that doesn't feel good in your body, that doesn't resonate for you. Okay, again, that's a red flag. This is my message of caution, of love and support. If you have any concerns, of course, if you're in a situation where you're not comfortable or where you feel like your safety is being threatened, please, take the appropriate actions, be responsible, contact your local authorities and so on. Cut ties with whoever is promoting this kind of energy in your life, and take your power back. Ultimately, that's my message tonight, is that no one can take that from you without your consent. When I say it's co-created, I mean it. It's really co-created. We want someone to tell us what to do. Right? This is part of the reason why humanity is so easy to control and easy to manipulate. We want the answers. We want to know what's going to happen because we don't feel safe in our bodies. And my advice to you is, if you practice cultivating safety and nervous system regulation and inner sovereignty and your own relationship with spirit, you become less easy to manipulate, less susceptible to control and to conquer, and to ultimately influence how you're going to think, act, and behave in the world. Okay, so you get to choose your reality. When we say that you are responsible for manifesting your own outcomes, I mean that like in every aspect of life. Okay, so again, if you have any questions about that, please jump in and let me know how I can support you in your personal evolution. Am I frozen or am I back? I'm back? Okay, good. All right, beautiful. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, how long was I frozen for, Meryl Jane? I don't have any private notes from you, do I? Okay. All right. Okay, everybody, let's jump into readings. I apologize for the interruption. Here we go. Patty says, hi, Sabrina and Oracle family. I'd love to know if things will calm down. Much has happened in the past couple of weeks, and I need to catch my breath. I feel like I've been out of touch. Guidance is appreciated. Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning, if you're here for readings, please stay on to validate. Patty, let me see what I have for you. Okay. So it's going to be a minute before things settle down for you, Patty. I feel like there's some miscommunication, kind of bumps in the road. There's some big things to deal with. There's actually a couple things that you're dealing with that you're kind of avoiding, that you need to deal with, that you've been kind of avoiding. So just tying up some loose ends and making sure that you're not carrying any unwanted baggage into this next phase of life. It actually looks like you're moving, and you're moving rather quickly into this new energy. And there's some important decisions to be made. Actually, there's some decisions involving your son. For some reason, I feel like there's a young male here present for you that's really needing guidance or needing some input or needing some connection from you. So there's a few moving parts around family and relationships that you need to attend to before things kind of settle down, before you can really take a deep breath. I feel like there's a lot of demands on your energy. Okay. So the best way to navigate that is to set healthy boundaries, is to, do your daily practice your, Patty, you're a member of our community. So you have access to the videos, the peace process, the Facebook community. So keep sharing and keep showing up there and asking for support, because that's where you're really going to learn to anchor in, as we're talking about tonight, anchoring in your relationship with source, and consciousness, and listening to your own intuitive guidance. Okay. Don't rush into anything. That sense of urgency is false. This is a man-made construct. There's nothing that you're going to miss out on. There's nothing that's going to happen without your consent. Okay. Or, there's no missed opportunity here. Okay. So it's just a matter of you taking 100% responsibility for slowing down your nervous system and taking a deep breath and going, you know what, I'm going to make these decisions when I'm supposed to, when I feel called to, and not a minute sooner. Okay, so you get to determine the pace of how this unfolds for you. Okay, again, there's something around your son. So if you haven't heard from him or haven't been in contact with him, it feels like it's the younger one. Please reach out to him, because there is there's a need for a conversation. He needs your support around something. And I actually feel like the relationship is kind of on the back burner right now while you tend to these other things. Okay, so that's my message for you tonight, Patty. And if you're still here, please validate. Otherwise, I will come back. You can come back and validate at the end. Okay, thank you, Patty, for being here. Beautiful. Who's next? Jenna. Jenna says, hello, Sabrina. I'm checking in to share. My 2-year-old granddaughter was talking while I was getting her something and saying, this is my Nana, but no one was there. Any chance you can see more? Okay. It's very common for children to see spirit. It's very common for them to feel the presence of an entity, or to feel like there is spiritual activity around, and there's no, because little children, especially 2-year-olds, like think about, how many years it takes the first 8 years of your life to be fully conditioned, to have the ego sort of settled and intact, where the identity is formed, right? So at 2 years old, we're still sort of wide open and vulnerable, and we're still very much in contact with source consciousness as part of our reality. And so she hasn't even landed in her body yet at 2 years old. So that doesn't really happen until all the teeth come in. So I want to say this is very normal. Who she's talking to specifically, it actually feels male. It feels like a male presence. But it's benign. It doesn't feel harmful. It feels very safe and what I would do, Jenna, in a situation like this is encourage it. Is be like, oh, who are you talking to? And, does this person have a name? And, what do they look like? What do they sound like? Are they friendly? Like, you can encourage this type of dialogue and connection so that the child doesn't feel, doesn't start to experience, being silenced or being, dismissed and disregarded when they're having these type of experiences, or corrected when they're having these type of experiences. Oftentimes, for so many of us, that have, especially those of us that are born with an inclination to speaking with spirit and communicating with spirit, we experience this kind of rejection, or this kind of like, oh, that's wrong, or that this isn't actually happening. Like there's adults start to argue with our reality, and that can cause us to second guess ourselves. Okay. Jenna says, I felt that, Sabrina. She's very smart and she was fine with it. Okay, good. Beautiful. This is very normal, and it's very open. And I want you to just trust your intuition. There's a reason why this is happening in your presence too, Jenna. Okay. So trust your intuition, trust your ability to guide her and to help her feel comfortable with this type of spiritual activity. I feel like it's male, but I would sit down and talk to her about it and invite her to answer some questions. And if there's anything she wants to share, perhaps this visitor has a message. Okay. So without putting any pressure on her, of course. Okay. So keeping in mind, she's only 2. So that's what I feel. And again, this is very, very, very normal. Okay, Jenna, thank you for being here and for asking that question. Good. Hi, Sunshine Beauty. Sunshine Beauty says, I have a chronic pain from decades ago. I'm in a holistic body program and going to add bone broth from their suggestions. I have also been thinking about going to physical therapy guidance. Okay. I mean, I think bone broth is okay. I don't think it's harmful. I don't think physical therapy is going to do much for you. Other than maybe teach you how to move properly, I feel like perhaps there's a lack of awareness around how you move your body, which is more rooted in the trauma of your early childhood and less about the injury. Okay. In fact, the injury usually brings attention to the trauma that we're holding in the body so that we can heal it. And then the physical aspect gets our attention first and foremost. And then that opens up the inner work to actually deal with the unresolved emotions that are at the root of it. Okay. So, the source of this pain, actually feels like it's in the lower spine. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong. If you're here, please validate. Okay. Yeah, I think that it's all coming from the base of your spine. And so I would really be intentional and develop a relationship with your physical body. Uh, she says, yes, in my lower back. Okay, good. Thank you for validating. So really be intentional. And I want you to practice developing a relationship with your body, like actually sitting with your pain and talking to it and saying, okay, I hear you. I see you. I feel you. You're making yourself known and I really feel you. I really feel like you're trying to get my attention. What is it that you need from me? What is it that I need to pay attention to? And sit with it and develop a meditation practice around this. Like have it be something that you do very intentionally where you're talking to it. And you can even ask spirit to show you in a dream or to show you in a meditation or to come through perhaps some automatic writing. Like what is it that my body is trying to communicate with me? Because the lower back, I can tell you, and this, you can probably just Google this yourself, is all about feeling supported. It's all about feeling like, you've got to carry this burden on your own. Sunshine Beauty says, I used to move heavy things, and I think that is where it came from. Yeah, does that make sense? But it is possible with a trauma connection, although I don't understand the mindset of it being a spiritual thing. Yeah, everything is spiritual. So, just to give you some context, it's not like spirit is separate from the body, from the trauma. It's like it's all spirit. There's never not spirit. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the back injury, that when you tie it back to childhood stuff, it's all about feeling alone, feeling unsupported. Perhaps you feel like you have to carry everything. Perhaps your father wasn't there for you, at least not for the moments that really counted in a way that felt safe and grounding for you, where you could relax. Perhaps you felt like, and lower back too can also show up somewhere around the, can activate solar plexus stuff. So it can show up, especially around, sexual issues and so on. So this is all that second chakra area. Okay. So it's really important for you to do some work around your root and sacral chakra when you're healing your body and you're tuning in. And I want you to start talking to it and start asking it what it needs and what it wants to reveal to you. Okay. On the physical level, like I said, the physical therapy is maybe just help teach you how to move around more responsibly, more aware of your movements. But you can also do that with yin yoga, with any type of restorative practice that doesn't put too much pressure on your low back. No lifting things, only body weight type of movements. Sunshine Beauty says, I felt I needed to be strong because I got validated with this. And so I continued moving heavy things. I rarely got validation, so maybe this is it. Yeah, 100%. This is connecting it to the masculine. Those of us with back issues, back pain issues, we don't feel supported. We feel like we have to do all the heavy lifting. You literally just told me that you're lifting heavy things. Why would you be lifting heavy things, right? There's an inclination for that. It helps you feel powerful and strong and like you can do everything on your own. That's what the back pain is. And the way to heal this is to soften, is to be in that flow receptive state, is to develop trust and to ask for support and to really tune into your body's needs and not pushing it harder than it needs to be. Think about the violence that we do to our bodies when we lift. I did heavy weightlifting for a couple of years and I ended up injuring my back as well. So I can relate to this. I have a lot of compassion for you. Like, I felt very strong and powerful doing it, but I didn't realize that I was pushing my body beyond its capacity. And it took a lot of awareness and intentionality to really heal this part of my psyche and to let go and to learn how to honor myself in different ways and to sort of find that mobility back. Again, you can build your own relationship with your body the same way you build your relationship with spirit. It's the same, right? And so you can ask spirit to guide you and help you make peace with this pain in your back. And by understanding what it's trying to communicate with you, which is really my guidance would be looking at your relationship with dad, the relationship with the masculine, the need for the masculine, and just trusting that you have support, right? That you can receive, that you can feel supported in your life, that's available to you. Because on a conscious level, you really want that. But on a subconscious level, you don't believe it's available and you don't believe it can show up for you in a way that's healthy, okay? That where you can get your needs met. She says, oh, I stopped lifting things long ago. Now I need to find ways to heal it, even though I have a caregiving role. Yeah. So this is just follow the guidance that I'm giving you tonight, and you can come back and rewatch this segment of the show, and just really hear what I'm saying to you. Okay. Build a conscious, intentional relationship with your body. Ask it what it needs. Start to move it in ways that are gentle, non-invasive, no lifting. Again, yoga, yin yoga is really good. Restorative yoga is really good. All modified positions, of course, honoring your body's needs, stretching, and learning to move in ways that are responsible. Learning to move in ways that are responsible is going to help you in so many areas of your life, not just physically, but also in relationships, in dating, in, being, in your work, the role, whatever the role you're doing at work, like all of this is going to help you. Okay. The awareness that will come as you develop this relationship with your body is going to like click in so many different areas. You'll see, oh, this is the pattern, right? And you'll see the benefits in these areas as well. Okay. That's my message for you tonight, Sunshine Beauty. Thank you for being here and asking such a beautiful question. Hi, Demix. I'll call you Demi. Hi, Demi. Demi says, hi, Sabrina. I was a bit curious of a dream I had a few days ago where someone told me to be aware of the rhino, and it's been on my mind. I was wondering what it could mean. Interesting. The rhino is not something I come across often. The first thing I want to ask you is how you felt when you woke up from this dream. Okay. How did you feel in the dream? How did you feel when you woke up from the dream? It seems like there's a threat here. Perhaps a sense of feeling like you might be engulfed by something or overpowered by something. And I would really look at some of the worried, odd. Yeah. Okay. So that's the threat, right? Like the sense of like loss of power is where I would go in interpreting this dream. So the loss of power, feeling like there's some kind of pending threat or some kind of thing looming in your life that you have no control over. Okay. And again, everything that we do on a daily basis goes right into our subconscious. So watch if you're consuming too much news, if you're, doom scrolling, watch what you're watching on television, even in terms of entertainment stuff, that can trigger these type of dreams as well. Okay. And the loss of power, if we go a little bit deeper, Demi, into your psyche, it also feels masculine. It feels like it can be related to, institutions, structures, even like money related stuff, financial related stuff. Okay. So again, I want you to examine your feeling of powerlessness or feeling like there's something coming for you. Okay. And that's the fear around it. Like there's just like either it's news you don't want to get or something you're concerned about, and it's showing up subconsciously in the dream, and it's being symbolized by the rhino, which ultimately as human beings we don't want to run into one, right? And so at least that's the perception. So it's never been my personal experience, but I want you to look at what is it that I'm actually worried about? Where am I holding fear in the body? And where can I resolve this on a conscious level so that I can resolve it on an unconscious level in the dream state? Okay. That's my message for you tonight. Thank you for being here. Any other questions, Lara? Are we all good? Louise is here. Okay, good. Beautiful. I see, she says. Okay, good. Awesome. Okay, so if there's no other questions, we will. Oh, here we go. Me says, also, I wanted to confirm with you that I found out my two guides you saw with the piano and the motherly figure, that the piano is actually Arise. He just really likes the piano, and Athena as the mother. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Demi. Thank you for coming back and confirming that for us. That's awesome. I'm really, really happy for you. I'm happy that you know who your guides are, and this is a good time to lean into them. In fact, you can ask your guides to help you with the dream and to help you uncover what it is that you might be worried about, so that you can feel empowered and you can have the clarity moving forward. Okay, so I love that. And I love that you came back to confirm that with me. All right, beautiful. Good. Hi, Jennifer. Jennifer says, I'm feeling stagnant in almost every area of my life, but especially in my career. I'm in a transition. I'm curious to know if I'm on the right path or am I trying to force something? Okay. So for this, I love this question because again, tonight we're talking about spiritual authority, right? We're talking about trusting your body, leaning into your nervous system response, developing your own intuition, and really like listening to your relationship, how you're responding to the relationship to outcomes. Okay, so there's two things I want to say about this. I'm going to give you my psychic hit, and then I'll give you the spiritual guidance. So my psychic hit is that I feel like you're doing something, or you're trying to force yourself to do something that doesn't fully capture your purpose. It does not really clicking for you. It could be something where you feel like this is the thing I want to do, but it's not really coming from the heart. It's not actually bringing you joy. This is not a natural expression for you. Okay. So, or it can be that this is something that does feel like a natural expression, but there's so much self-doubt in the way that you feel disconnected from it. Either way, there's a sense of disconnection. Okay. So again, I want you to look at your nervous system and ask yourself, am I showing up fully for the thing I said I want to do, or for whatever it is that I'm creating? I have this, I'm sort of running on this idea that you are an entrepreneur, or you're trying to start your own thing. You're trying to do something on your own. Maybe it's helping people, maybe it's coaching or something like that. So yeah, I'm kind of running on this idea, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like there's this thing that you want to do, that you want to bring to the world, but you don't know where to start. And I want to say that there's a period of gestation here that's actually asking you to pause and really question what the thing is that brings you the most joy. What problem do you most naturally solve for people? What's the thing that you feel like you would do if money was no object? How would you spend your day? These are questions. She says, yes, you're spot on. Okay. So again, I want you to really ask yourself, like, what's the thing that lights me up? What's the thing that really brings, joy to my soul, and then forget about how everybody else is doing it, and forget about what everybody else is suggesting, because sometimes we can get inundated with comparisons, and this is working for her, but it's not working for me, and it's working for this person, but it's not, I can't do it that way, or whatever. Like, it's so important that you follow your own pace, and that you tune into the thing that you want to create, if coming from a place of joy, okay, and not coming from a place of lack and scarcity. It's almost impossible to create a career based on personal mission and purpose and joyful expression when you're terrified of not being able to pay your bills, okay, when you're in fear and lack and scarcity, and there's a real concern about your day-to-day well-being, right, when you're feeling stuck and so on, as you mentioned earlier. So it's important that you get your basic needs met. So assuming that you can do that part, the rest is about really trusting and leaning into what you want to share and how you want to share it. Who am I and why am I here? Those are the two most important questions in any spiritual development journey. It doesn't matter what modality. It doesn't matter who you're working with. It doesn't matter if you believe in spirit guides, if you don't believe in spirit guides, or whatever you feel most drawn to. Your body will never lie. And when you're trying to do something that's not a fit for you, your body will let you know. Okay. So again, I want you to let go of these external ideas of what you're supposed to do, or what other people need from you, which is part of your conditioning. Okay. And this is not uncommon. It's like really just taking your power back and saying, it doesn't matter what I think the world needs. What matters is, what do I want to share? What do I want to share that comes most naturally to me, that comes most joyfully to me, in a way that's most accessible, that's most sustainable for me to share, right? Like, I do Oracle Hour because I love it, because this is a natural way for me to share my gifts, for me to talk about all the things that I feel most passionate about, to bring integrity to spiritual authority, as we talked about this evening in the beginning of our broadcast, and to, bring integrity to psychic work and mediumship work and so on, because, there's a lot of really great people out there. And there's also a lot of, realms to be cautious of, as we've been discussing tonight. Okay. So again, do the thing that's most accessible to you because you love it, because it brings you joy, and this will bring you the most success. This is the path. Anything outside of that is going to burn you out. And it's going to crash. It's going to crash in the sense where it will not bring the results that you are looking for. Okay. So this is the work, is to really just kind of unplug from the outside world and not look for validation and confirmation, but really trust your own nervous system and start from that place of joy. Okay. That's my message for you tonight. Beautiful. Sunshine Beauty says, follow-up question. Okay. In the holistic program, my back was feeling better in the decompressions. Yet recently, when I was getting deeper compressions, my right side has consistent pain. Went in. Yeah, because you're focused on the physical. So go back and listen to the reading that I gave you. Okay. The physical, it will always, it's like a rubber band. When you focus on just the physical symptoms, you can create that relief, but it'll snap back into place. This is Band-Aid. It's not enough. You can do the physical work. You can do decompressions, you can do chiropractic, you can do physical therapy, you can do the physical stuff. But if you're not doing the inner work to resolve the emotional stuckness, like where the energy is held in your body and the somatic release that needs to happen in order for you to have freedom in this area of your body, there's no point. You're just going to keep looking for the physical solution until, all of a sudden there's surgery, and all of a sudden there's, all these extreme medical procedures that really exist because we don't have a relationship with our bodies. We don't really have a conscious, intimate dialogue with our physical selves so that we can tune into our pain and our discomfort and talk to it and ask our body to show us, to reveal to us what needs to be healed. Okay. So it's like I said, it's the right side, left side. I mean, the right side, it can be masculine, or feminine rather, like talking about the relationship with your mom, so again, you got to go deeper in the work in terms of healing the physical stuff, because my sense is you're going to be doing treatments for a long time until you really, really look at the emotional stuff that's stuck in your body that you're not actually processing. Okay. That's my guidance for you tonight. All right. Sunshine Beauty. Jennifer says, thank you. You're welcome. You're so, so welcome. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Beautiful. Okay, good. Okay, everybody. I apologize for being frozen at the beginning. I don't know if we lost people because of it, but here we are tonight. If there's anybody who has any last questions before we wrap up, otherwise, thank you so much for joining me live and for all your beautiful questions. We will be live again next Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific. If you didn't get your question answered, or if you dropped off because we were frozen, please come back and join us every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific. If you don't want to wait that long, if you don't want to ask your question publicly, you can always book a reading with me. There's the link to book readings. Okay, those are for one-on-one readings. Also, this coming weekend on February 28th, the last Saturday of the month, is our Oracle Gathering. So if you are a community member, you have access to the Oracle Gathering. That's one of the membership perks. Otherwise, you can just click on that link and buy a one-time ticket. You can actually click on that link, get a one-time ticket to come and see what the Oracle Gathering is all about. It is a mediumship demonstration and a psychic demonstration as well. So there's psychic reading, mediumship connections. This weekend, I feel very called to focus on the theme around leaning into our ancestors to help us understand what's happening in the world, how to rebuild our lives from the inside out, so that we can feel safe and we can create a life that feels empowering for ourselves and for our families. That's the theme for this weekend. So it's really leaning into ancestral wisdom. If you have a loved one in spirit that you want to communicate with or you want a message from, this is the gathering for you. And we meet in a Zoom environment so we can interact on screen and you can ask questions and we go deeper into readings. Of course, I give psychic guidance as well. So the Oracle Gathering happens once a month. This next one is on February 28th. And like I said, if you join as a member, you get access to the gathering. Otherwise, you can just buy a one-time ticket and we'll see you in our community on Saturday at 10 a.m. Okay. I'm sending you all my love. Thank you for watching live tonight, and I will see you all next Sunday. Bye for now.